So one of the main things over these last couple weeks for the Leafs has been their scoring. They've scored 29 goals over the last 2 weeks, 16 over the last week, and it's a huge difference from how they started the season, and they haven't gone a game over the last 2 weeks scoring less than 3 goals. So it's been a very, very high scoring week. And one of the major topics of conversation that has been going around since the start of the season is where the goals are coming from and how they can get the scoring and production this year to be different from last year. So what I wanted to touch upon was where these goals are actually coming from, and taking a look at this past week specifically with their 16 goals to show where the goals are coming from in terms of the players and who is scoring these goals and where they're coming from in terms of first, second, third, fourth, or defense, but also where the goals are coming from in terms of the location on the ice, which I think is a bit more important to talk about and to acknowledge. So let's take a look at where the goals are coming from in terms of players. Short answer is they're coming from everywhere. Over the last week, like I said, we've had 16 goals. So 6 have come from the first line, 4 from the second, 1 from the third, 4 from the fourth, and 1 from defense. Now, the numbers might be a bit off. For example, I counted Spezza's goal from Saturday when he was playing with Marner. I counted that as the fourth line. So I counted the goals based on where the player normally plays in the lineup. So the numbers might be a bit off. Like some might have even come from the power play too. But I did it based on where the player normally plays in the lineup. So anyway, regardless of that. So out of the 16 goals, the first and second line have 10. Now you compare that to just 3 weeks ago. I think it was 3 weeks ago. There was 1 week where they only scored 5 goals, and the first and second line combined for 3, which is about 60%. And people were saying we're not getting enough scoring from the third and fourth lines and from defense. Because I think the last 2, I think 1 came from the third line and 1 came from defense, something like that. And people were saying 3 out of 5 goals from the first 2 lines. That's insane. But if you look at it percentage-wise, the 3 out of the 5 goals is whatever, about 60%. The 10 out of 16 goals that they had this past week was 63%. So it's roughly the same. And now you see how the conversation has changed, and people are saying, wow, the Leafs are getting scoring from everywhere. They're getting scoring from their third, fourth lines, from their defense. They're getting contributions from everywhere. But it's pretty much been the same. The only difference is that we've scored more goals collectively as a team. So those 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, whatever it was, if you listen to my podcast episode, even one of my previous videos where I touched upon where the Leafs stand, if you go take a look at that video, I talked about how people were complaining that there was not balanced scoring. And I said, that's not the issue. The issue is that we just need more scoring. And now, because it was such a small sample size, it was only 5 goals. So how can you make a conclusion where we're not getting balanced scoring if it's only 5 goals? So now you go and you look at the larger sample size with 16 goals, and everyone's saying they've got balanced scoring. But they always had it, because percentage-wise, it's literally almost the exact same. Literally 2% off. So it's funny. It literally proves exactly what I said 2 weeks ago, where the issue was that we just needed more scoring, and now that we have it, everyone's like, now they have balanced scoring. But, and I will repeat myself again, they have always had the balanced scoring. They just didn't have enough goals collectively as a team to prove it. And now they do. And then you look at the assists as well. The assists are coming from everywhere. Brody's got 2, Bunting's got 4, Marner's got 3, Muzzin's got 2, Nylander, Tavares, Kerfoot, Engvall, Ritchie, Simmons, Riley, Matthew, Spezza. So much variety. And this is just from this past week. You look at the week prior to that as well, where they got 13 goals, I believe it was. Even more variety. So this is just to show that the balanced scoring was always there, and it's literal statistical proof with numbers showing how the 3 out of the 5 goals and the 10 out of the 16 goals is exactly the same. We just needed more scoring, and we got it. Let's hope it continues that way. The more important portion that I wanted to talk about was where the goals are coming from in terms of on the ice. And this is super, super, like, the importance of this cannot be underscored. The goals now are coming from in front of the net. Last season, it was almost always one of those nice shots, highlight reel goals where, you know, the morning after the game, Matthews' goal, Nylander's goal was on repeat on TSN. That's what it was last season. That's literally what it was. Every single game, almost every single goal. Now, it's most often from scrums in front of the net, getting those dirty goals, just literally just throwing the puck to the net, hoping that it hits someone, or getting a rebound and fighting for the puck in a scrum in front of the net. It's those goals that they have to work for, that they have to work hard for. Those are the type of goals that they're getting now, this season. And that is the biggest difference from last season, and it is such an important difference to acknowledge and to pay attention to, because it's just massive. I mean, you always hear coaches and players, past and present, saying that in the playoffs, those nice highlight reel goals don't come. And we know that that's true, because we've seen it happen to the Leafs. It's happened to us before. It happened to us just last season, where the entire season we were scoring and scoring and scoring. We were one of the most productive teams in the league in terms of scoring goals. But how did those goals occur? Where did those goals come from on the ice? They came from, you know, Matthews' wrist shot on the power play, or even strength, whatever it was, came from those nice fancy shots, or or you saw players like Nylander where they would try and do it all themselves. They'd take it into the offensive zone, circle around the offensive zone 25 times before trying to get a shot off themselves, or before he would eventually lose the puck and it would turn the other way into our zone. Players aren't trying, I mean, you look at this season, players are not trying to do that anymore. They're not, I mean, the fact that happened last season, and then you look at what happened in the playoffs, we couldn't score those fancy goals. That's what we had been doing all season, and we just figured we're going to be able to do it in the playoffs. No problem. And they were shut down every time they tried. Because those types of goals don't come. They're nice, and we love them. We love to see them. But those types of goals get you nowhere at the end of the day. So the fact that they're working hard for these goals now is a really, 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 like, I can't stress this enough. It's a really good sign, and that they're not just relying on those fancy goals or just trying to go in all on their own for that nice shot, for that nice goal. They are scoring as a team, not as individuals. You look at Nylander and how he's changed. He doesn't do that anymore. Those continuous, endless cycles of... I used to call him a puck hog. I'm sure several other people used to reference him as a puck hog too, because he'd literally just take the puck and cycle. You look at how he's changed as a player. When he enters the zone, he looks for a pass, and he goes to the net. And that's what all the players, even Matthews, you look at just this past Saturday, the goals he scored. One was a tap in because he was standing in front of the net. The other, he was standing alone in front of the net. He made that nice move, same type of thing. They are scoring as a team. They are relying on each other, not themselves as individuals, to get the goal. And that is so important. Throwing the pucks to the net, getting the rebounds. Because working hard for goals now, they're going to learn how to score as a team, but they're going to learn how to work hard for goals and not just rely on those fancy goals. So when playoffs come, they know how to work hard for those goals already. I mean, that's how you look at teams like Tampa, or teams like even the Habs, the way they played last season, obviously not this season, but teams like that, even Colorado too, last season, when their success came from scoring as a team, not as individuals, not from scoring those highlight reel goals, from getting those dirty goals, having those scrums in front of the net. That's where the success comes from in the playoffs. And that's what makes them different this season from last season. And it's probably one of the most important differences that you can see in a team like the Leafs from one season to the next. You look at just this past week, out of those 16 goals, again, the numbers could be off, but 11 came from in front of the net and 5 came from further away. By further away, I mean maybe like at the red dot or a shot from the point or whatever. I mean, they're still shooting from the point, but the way that they shoot from the point is different. They're shooting from the point for a rebound, not necessarily for a goal and such. But it's probably one of the biggest improvements I've seen is how they score their goals now, in terms of where it's from on the ice, and how they are not afraid to score those dirty goals, and they are learning how to do it more often. They are learning how to work hard for those goals, because it will pay off, because now we're going to be a team in the playoffs who knows how to score those dirty goals and doesn't just rely on highlight reel goals. And that's what's going to make us different from other teams in the playoffs. So that's my piece on where the goals are coming from in terms of players and in terms of on the ice. Take a look over the next week or over the next couple weeks at who's scoring the goals, and more importantly, look at where the goals are coming from and how the goals are being scored. Like I said, the shots can still come from the point or from further away, but it's how the goals end up being scored, and you'll notice the difference, and it's a very, very important difference. So check that out. Make sure you pay attention to that over the next couple weeks, and that is all for this video. Thanks for tuning in.